Hello and welcome to my very exciting New Zealand South Island road trip series. In this episode, I'll be sharing the first few days of our trip from arriving at Christchurch Airport to finding our feet around this beautiful city. Stay tuned for plenty of tips for your own itinerary and feel free to use the chapters to skip ahead should you wish to. If you're new here, my name is Vicky, aka The Hangry Explorer, and I started this channel in 2025 as I've always found YouTube to be an incredibly helpful tool for planning my own travel itineraries. So back to the episode. We had decided that we were going to spend 3 weeks on just the South Island. That would give us the perfect opportunity to road trip around as much of the island as absolutely possible, from some of the cities to the smaller towns, from beautiful coastlines to stunning mountain landscapes. We flew with Singapore Airlines, flying out from London Heathrow into Christchurch via Singapore. I would recommend flying this route if you are looking to just do the South Island, as it does allow you to cut out an extra connection flight, normally flying into Auckland before connecting into Christchurch. Just a little tip, when you fly into New Zealand, their custom and immigrations are super strict when it comes to taking in certain items to protect their environment and their flora and fauna. You do have to complete a declaration card. We actually completed this using an app when we had our layover at Singapore. What I would recommend doing is planning ahead and making sure that the items that you are planning to take into the country aren't going to damage any of their environments. It's really important that you know where you are packing the items that you will be declaring. So I had cleaned our walking boots to within an inch of their lives, and then I'd made sure that I had packed them into boot bags. These boot bags then went into one suitcase on the top of that suitcase, so when I was asked by the immigration officer to pull out those items, it was a quick case of knowing what suitcase I packed it into, exactly where it was, and then just pull out the 2 boot bags. The immigration officer was extremely happy with how clean our boots were, so our receipts were stamped and we were sent on our way. After we passed through customs, we had a surprisingly great coffee in the arrivals part of the terminal, and I also spoke to a lovely lady who was incredibly helpful on the information desk. She gave us a few really good tips about which bus to catch into the city centre, and also what we could do to kill a little bit of time before we were able to check into our hotel. Once you pass through immigration and enter the arrivals terminal, you will turn immediately left, and it takes about 60 seconds, if that, to get to the exit of the building, and then about another 60 seconds before you arrive at the bus stop. The bus timetables were well displayed, and we needed to catch the number 29. This is the route that's specifically designed for taking people from the airport to the city centre. It only takes about half an hour, and it also has plenty of storage for luggage. Surprisingly, we weren't feeling too jet lagged when we arrived, but we'd already decided to spend a couple of nights acclimatising to New Zealand soil and enjoying the city before picking up our car and starting our road trip. It was absolutely tipping it down on our arrival day, but luckily our hotel let us check in early. The Adina Heritage Hotel is set in an old government building, which I loved. It really added a lot of character and a lot of charm to where we were staying. When we checked into our room, it was more like an apartment than a hotel room, which was perfect after just getting off 2 long international flights. So we had our full kitchen area and then a full lounge area as well, but we had a mezzanine area where our double bed was upstairs, along with the bathroom, and inside the bathroom there was a washer and dryer. Something that is quite common, I would say, in a lot of the places we stayed in New Zealand. So you probably could pack a lot lighter and just make use of either washing facilities that can be found in either your room, or the hotel will often have guest laundry that you will be able to use quite often for free. Sometimes there is a small charge. We found the Adina Heritage Hotel to be incredibly well priced, especially for the size. The location was very central as well, which was handy. Even though Christchurch we found to be quite a walkable city, it was great to still be quite central. Adina Heritage do charge extra if you are going to be parking a car. I think it was about 20 New Zealand dollars per night, but just bear that in mind that quite a lot of the city centre hotels will charge extra for parking per night. So one thing I done when I was looking for accommodation was to look for free self-parking, and that was definitely a lifesaver in a lot of the places that that we stayed in. We decided to not let the rain dampen our spirit, so we headed out for some fresh air and to try and help us acclimatise to the New Zealand times. We made a beeline for some coffee and a cookie at a place that I had seen had just opened up. The apple crumble cookie was absolutely incredible, so I highly recommend visiting the Cookie Trader if you are in Christchurch. For some reason we thought it was a great idea to walk around the Botanic Gardens, even though it was absolutely tipping it down. Now, the Botanic Gardens in Christchurch are absolutely stunning, and a little bit of a spoiler alert here, not all of the footage you see was taken on our arrival day. We did actually come back to Christchurch at the end of our holiday, and we got to experience the Botanic Gardens in glorious sunshine as well. But I would say, come rain or shine, Botanic Gardens is the perfect way to stretch your legs and get a little bit of fresh air and acclimatise to the New Zealand time. On the second day, we completely lucked out with the weather. It started off quite foggy and overcast, and we were a little bit worried that it would limit what we could do in the city. However, we walked about a mile to find some breakfast at a place called Unknown Chapter. Now, if you like French toast or just any breakfast at all, you have to go to Unknown Chapter. It is incredible. The staff were very friendly. It just gave us a really nice intro experience into New Zealand and more of what was to come throughout the rest of the 3-week trip. By the time we'd finished our breakfast, blue skies were peeking through and we could start to see some of the mountains in the distance. So we got on another bus and we took that bus to the Christchurch Gondola. Now, you can walk all the way to the top, but we would probably say get the gondola up. We love a good gondola. Once you're at the top, the views are absolutely incredible. Now, this does come with a bit of a caveat. If you're planning to do the gondola and it's overcast and it's not a clear day, I would probably say skip it, because you will be paying to just look at clouds. We lucked out massively though, because we could see the snow-capped mountains in the distance. It was such an emotional experience because we have wanted to be in New Zealand for such a long time, and we were finally where we wanted to be. What we done after that is we just had a lovely look around the viewing area. There is a cafe up there, so if you did need to grab some lunch and if you did need to grab a drink, you can do that. We didn't, but it did look great. There's a lovely gift shop as well. I was very tempted to spend a lot of money, but I didn't because we had planned to walk down to Lyttelton. Now, it took us probably just over an hour to walk from the top of the gondola. We didn't get the gondola back down, so we walked from the top of the gondola down to Lyttelton. And I loved Lyttelton because it was it's quite a quaint place, but it's very much a local feel. It has quite a few little cafes and places to eat, which all looked incredible. And even though the streets were quite quiet, all of the little cafes looked quite busy. So that's a good sign. We didn't really have time to stop and eat, so we just grabbed a soft drink and then we hopped back on the bus to go back into Christchurch. Now, we ended the day by hopping on the tram. It's very much a tourist experience because Christchurch is such a walkable city. I would say you don't need to use the tram for transport. You don't need to hop on and off. You can walk everywhere that the tram goes. However, it is quite a unique experience, and if you like old things like I do, I loved being on an old tram, the little old signs. I would definitely recommend doing it from a kind of a checklist activity. So for food, we've got the Riverside Market, which I would highly recommend to anybody who is visiting Christchurch. Basically, it's an indoor food market that has cuisine from all over the world. It has full kind of pub type meals if that's your thing, or you can just get takeaway style meals, but then you can go and grab a table and sit with other members of your family or your friends who've all picked a different cuisine but who all want to sit together. There's a bar there. We opted for Dimitri's Greek and we got 2 chicken Slovakis and they were huge. So they were about 13 Great British pounds for 2 of them, and they were packed full of really good quality chicken, really fresh salad ingredients, and I would just highly recommend going to the Riverside Market, especially if you want something a little bit more casual. Now, I would probably say a word of warning, a lot of places tend to close quite early. So if you're looking to go out for an evening meal and you're from the States or you're from the UK or Europe and you're used to eating quite late, I would probably say try and flip it on its head a little bit. Try and have a bigger lunch or a big brunch, and then go for something a little bit more casual in the evening. Now, there are some places you'll be fine. So if you're going to Queenstown, you'll be absolutely fine finding somewhere for an evening meal, but still, if there's somewhere you really want to try and book ahead. In Christchurch, there are a couple of places that are open later. You do have to look around. So a lot of places close on certain days of the week. So maybe on a Monday and Tuesday, you'll find certain places are closed. So do your research in advance, shortlist some places that you want to eat, check out their opening times and book them if you really want to go there. Now, I'm not an art lover, but one thing that really surprised me was the street art on every single corner. It blew me away. It was absolutely breathtaking. I would actually recommend one of the best activities that we done is just getting a little bit lost in the city. Just walk around the city and enjoy as much of the art as possible. Now, it's not just like any old graffiti that's a little bit cool. It is full-blown art. Just look at it. When we first arrived in New Zealand, we only had 2 nights in Christchurch. Had we booked longer there initially, and if we had our car, there are definitely some other activities that we would have wanted to do. And that includes going over to Akaroa for a day. So that's like the French Quarter, and that is meant to be absolutely beautiful. We just didn't have time to do that, and we also didn't have our car until we were heading off on the start of our road trip. Something else that we would have wanted to do, maybe if we had arrived just a few days earlier, is check out the local ski resort at Mount Hutt. My hubby lives for snowboarding, so it would have been a really cool experience to be able to check out one of the New Zealand ski resorts. There is also something that we didn't get a chance to do while we were there called Quake City. That's a museum that it doesn't take too long to do. The tram does stop right outside it. We did want to do it, especially because it is a rainy day, but by the time we got there, they were closing. And we just thought that would be a really humbling experience to go in and see some of the stories that came from the earthquake. As we did come back to Christchurch at the end of our trip, we managed to go over to New Brighton Beach and enjoy the hot pools. I thoroughly recommend that if you're feeling particularly achy and knackered after your flight, and maybe you've picked up your car early or you have an extra day or 2 in Christchurch at the start of your trip. That's really lovely thing to do with beautiful views out over the ocean. If you don't get time to do that while you're in Christchurch, there are hot pools dotted all around the South Island, and I'm sure the views are spectacular in each and every one of them. So that is something that I would recommend adding to your list of things to do, because it will just give you a little bit of downtime. I find that when you're on a road trip, it is full on and you very rarely just give yourself time to breathe and enjoy the environment that you're in. On our 3rd morning, we had to get the bus back over to the airport. This time we got a different bus because a lot of the car rental companies companies aren't based at the actual airport terminal themselves. They are based about a mile outside of that in like an industrial estate. So the bus we got was the number 8, and it does take you around the houses a little bit, but also because it's not a dedicated city airport bus route, it doesn't have a lot of storage space for your luggage. And there were other tourists that were on that bus, so there was a little bit of a fight for where we were going to store our luggage and trying to keep it all in one place. Once you get off the nearest bus stop to the rental company, there's still probably a 10-15 minute walk. You've got to cross a busy road, you've got probably a suitcase each, you've got your backpacks on. In hindsight, I would recommend actually getting the number 29 bus back to the main airport terminal and then contacting your car rental company to book the shuttle. Some offer a free shuttle, some offer it as a paid service, but it would just take a lot of the stress out of your journey. Alternatively, just grab a taxi. So the collection process with Go Rentals, where we got our car from, was extremely easy. I'd already completed all of the paperwork online the night before. We had opted to book the full cover insurance. For me personally, being the first time we'd actually rented a car abroad, I thought just pay the extra for a zero excess policy. I actually do recommend that if you are someone who doesn't want to have to deal with paperwork should something go wrong during your trip. So from entering the shop to being shown our car, it was literally a couple of minutes. We still done our due diligence and we still filmed the outside of the car and also the inside of the car. There were quite a lot of scratches all around the car, both inside and outside, and I think that's probably because a lot of the New Zealand roads are quite gravelly. So if you're going up to see somewhere like, say, the Clay Cliffs, they are unsealed roads, and I think that probably has a lot to do with it. But also the interior of the car quite scuffed up and damaged, and it was quite a new car, so I thought it's probably wise to film the inside as well, just in case we get blamed for something that wasn't our fault. After picking up the car, we stopped off at the local Woolies to pick up some snacky bits and then started our journey towards Lake Tekapo, where we would be spending our 3rd night in New Zealand. We both absolutely loved Christchurch, and I would recommend saying don't just treat it as a transit city. Don't just fly in, pick up your car and off you go on your road trip. There are so many things to see and do there, and as well it will just allow you to recover and feel a little bit more relaxed for the rest of your journey. It feels like an incredibly safe and clean city to be in. So don't miss the next episode, where I will be taking you on the first incredible leg of our road trip journey on the way down to Lake Tekapo, where we stopped and what we thought of our hotel. When it's ready, I'll add it right up here. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of my New Zealand trip. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And also maybe even leave a comment down below if you have any questions about what to do in Christchurch, or maybe I just missed something completely off the itinerary that you think other travellers should know about. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.